Okay, I think we are in a good position. Yes, everything seems to be working. That's always good. It's always a good start to everything. Okay. Alrighty, we are live. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, look at what we got here. Yep, okay, I think we're in a good spot. There we are. And get this. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So, we're going to keep this going. Hopefully, we can wrap things up today. But first, I want to just kind of point out that I have done a little bit of organizing here. You can see the little sub bullets. I've changed some points to. This adds a lot fewer numbers, of course, on the board, but you know, it's still kind of getting all of these events kind of wrapped up. You'd make an argument that some of this stuff could be its own separate bullet points still, but I think overall, I think putting under these larger umbrellas is a good way to help organize the information to kind of keep track, right? Like I was saying though earlier, like maybe I'll have some of them moved out, but you know, that's what reviewing this stuff is for. And then we'll move on to this last section because this one is, I get the feeling this one's going to be really long. I think this is going to be a 1,000-year journey for sure. I think Rodney's right. Oh, it's going to be quite the expedition. Okay, yeah. So, like I said earlier, let's try to go down this list and try to review like everything that we have here. See if I've added a few things. I've also subtracted a few things, I think, as well. So we'll go through and see if there's anything else I'm forgetting as we go through this. I'm sure there is. There's always got to be something, right? So we start with the Age of Ancients. It's just a world of crags, archtrees, and archdragons. Then the first flame appears and we get into the next one. So disparity souls proliferate across the world. The Lord Soul settled near the first flame. The primordial crystal forms. Yeah, let's just do something like this so it's easier for me. The sun and stars manifest in the sky. New dragons / trees are born. Archdragons / archtrees acquire souls. Yep, that seems about right. New dragons / trees are born. Are born from ancestors. I think that's the best way to clarify it. Are born from ancestors. Seath, Calamite, Sin, etc. are born. Wyverns / worms evolve from archdragons. Plants / fungi evolve from trees. Do we want to point out the mushroom men specifically? No, because we don't mention basilisks either. I don't think it's needed. You know, I think it's kind of unnecessary. So Seath invents sorcery. Okay. Snakes evolve from dragons. Koth, Frampt, etc. are born. Beasts evolve from snakes. Do we include the beast skeleton? I don't think so, because we'll mention the giant separately. This is something I think we could just kind of... Yeah, I think we could just show this from the skeleton stuff, right? Like, we don't need to explicate it anymore. Hey, I am good to see you in the chat. Beasts evolve from snakes. Giants, medials, and pygmies evolve from beasts. Lloyd is born. Nito, Isla, Jeremiah split off from the tribe. Gwyn is born. Either of these events could have happened. Like, you could switch B and C here, but it's not that important. Said's Funhouse got pretty entertained. Oh god, you guys will be maybe entertained. Me, I'm gonna be going through another torture session. 7 daughters are born to Isleth and Jeremiah. We know that. Quelana, Guelana, Qualag, etc. Yeah, that's going. Ugh. Okay. If only we had names for all the daughters, that would make things so much easier. Because then at the very least, I could be something like, okay, we have Quelana, Guelana, right? Like kind of that. that whole shtick of being like, oh, these are like the eldest daughters, and then we'll have the younger daughters on the bottom. Thing is, we don't have. All right. We'll just leave it at this. Eyes of the daughters wander the earth studying the dark. Medial / pygmies discover the first flame. Yeah, okay. That's all true. And then the dawn of the Age of Fire when the Lord Souls are discovered. So Nito becomes the Grave Lord. He tinkers with his skeletal body. Yeah, I don't think we need to say more than that. Izeth and daughters invent flame sorcery. Izeth begins experimenting to create her own first flame with her daughters. Download the PDF, but I haven't gone over it. Shake my head. Don't worry, we're going over it now, so. Let's see. Gwyn establishes dominion over his clan. Gwyn shares power with vassals. Medial's found Anor Londo. Grand archives are constructed. Firstborn Guinevere and Filianor are born to Gwyn and his queen. Vamos invents blacksmithing. Vamos develops flame weapon for Anor Londo. Vamos forges copper weaponry and invents bronze / brass. Yeah, I think that's fair because we'll include bronze / brass under these copper. Forges weaponry with copper and invents bronze / brass. Yeah, something like that. Vamos invents Titanite to enhance weaponry. I include this earlier because I realized that, yeah, this was around the time that was probably the most likely that they're gonna, like, if you're gonna have weapons be used, it's probably gonna start with the giants and stuff, right? So this is probably where copper first enters the scene. Where's the DS2 Drake Lake timeline? Oh boy, no, Bray. That's that might be next. We'll see. Oh, I might skip it for 3 first, just for my own sanity. Vamos invents the Titanite to enhance weaponry, so that's fine. Anor Londo subjugates and enslaves the giants. Anor Londo builds an firelink chamber. Anor Londo collects the primordial crystal. Anor Londo establishes pantheon for medials. Certain slaves elevated to city or royal guard. For loyalty. Let's put. Primordial serpents approach Gwyn. Anor Londo knights train for dragon hunts. Since fortress is constructed, Anor Londo develops lightning. This I could probably put earlier. I don't know where exactly I'd want to put it, but we could probably put it as earlier as before the subjugation stuff. But Vamos develops lightning weaponry for sure. Develops white iron and holy weaponry. Firstborn trains at Sen's Fortress. Guinevere and Filianor provide blessings to warriors. Yeah, that's all. That's consistent. Gwyn forms alliance with Nito and Izeth. Tomb of the Giants / Gods is established. The thing is, it's an ancestral burial ground. Oh, let's put that. Is established in ancestral burial grounds. Let's put that. Velka becomes witch studying all arts and rites. The furtive pygmy finds the dark souls. The pygmy lord splits the dark soul amongst his clan. Let's just say his for the clan. Amongst the clan. You just lost 1,000 aura, Loki, for not gonna lie, for not going chronologically. We have to include all known DS2 civilizations, by the way. I know, that's what's gonna make it crazy. Because really, it's only right that we include at least most of them, right? Like, we could probably ignore, like, say, Lanfear or something, but, like, I think Marah would have to be included at least. For sure. Obviously, you're gonna have to include Ferosa. Like there's just gonna be a lot. All right, so Anor Londo. Oh, whoops. Anor Londo shackles the pygmies with the dark sign. Oh no, sorry, I skipped this. Right? Yeah, looks the clan. Gwyn recruits the pig. Why am I doing this? Gwyn recruits the third of Pygmy into alliance. Anor Londo gives pygmies the Ring City and Filianor. Primordial serpents approach the Pygmy Lord. The Ring Knights are established. The Ring City invents abyssal weaponry. The Pygmy Lord makes deal with the Rat King. Anor Londo shackles the pygmies with the dark sign. Anor Londo seals Ring Knights equipment with fire. This, I think, it's only fair that we... with fire. I think this is fair. Instead of saying the dark sign, we'll say with fire. Anor Londo hunts / captures wyverns. Let's put hunts and captures for this one. Hunts and captures wyverns. Firstborn befriends Stormdrake. I think or is just better because it's like, you know, one or the other is happening to them. Firstborn befriends the Stormdrake. As part of this. And rides as mount. There we go. He rides it as mount. The four lords challenge the Archdragons. Nito spreads his aura of death to dragons. Now we just need to say this. Izeth and daughters create firestorms. Gwyn and knights hurl lightning spears. Firstborn Ornstein and others fight at the vanguard. From the rear, at the vanguard, Havel faces... Yeah, there we go. Havel faces Seath and becomes rock-like. Anor Londo develops Dragon Slayer Spear from Sword Spear. Ornstein distinguishes himself to Gwyn as Firstborn's first knight. Goff distinguished himself to Gwyn as Hawkeyed Great Archer. Goff leads Dragon Slayer unit of Great Archers. Izeth and daughters create... Oh no, we already have the Create Firestorm, so we don't need to put this, of course. Ring Knights, they're contributing. I decided to word it like this because they're doing something. Souls of the Fallen absorbed by comrades. Souls of Anor Londo's Fallen absorbed by comrades. Yeah, well, with that, Seath betrays and kills the Archdragons. Kills remaining Archdragons. So the dragons are finally defeated. The post-battle cleanup. Nito takes home the dead allies to bury. Anor Londo and Ring Knights take home beheaded dragons. Wrong thing for... So this should be for experiment. Beheaded dragons as trophies. For trophies. Izeth take home the beheaded dead dragon for experiments. Seath collects Archdragon corpse. Collects an Archdragon corpse and Midir for research. Kalameet escapes and wanders the upper world. Sin escapes and hides in the New World underground. Ornstein was the only real kick shit. I mean, I'll be honest, I do really like Ornstein's design. I really do. I think that he is perhaps the most interesting of the four knights. Obviously, with all the stuff you get in later games as well. But I just think overall, he just has a lot kind of going for him as being someone who, like, you know, he serves close to the Firstborn. He's been like in the heat of it, right? Like he's like your archetypical hero and all that stuff. And then he kind of doesn't really doesn't kind of have anything to do in the meantime, right? Except serve his lord faithfully. And then when his lord becomes the king, and then that king ultimately abandons Anor Londo, he abandons it with it and ends up leaving behind like a bunch of golems essentially set up to be his replacement. Like it's kind of interesting to think about how Anor Londo, almost like with all like the crazy like neo-Renaissance architecture and like corkscrew lifts and all the other kind of like fantastical technology Anor Londo demonstrates. And then of course you add the golems and gargoyles on top of that. You really kind of get a sense that Anor Londo and the gods were almost sci-fi, right? In their technology, and yet they're also very traditional with how, like, you know, they don't invent crossbows, they stick to bows and things like that. Like all that's just kind of interesting to think about in my minds. Let's see. Seath collects an Archdragon corpse in Midir for research. Kali escapes and wanders the upper world. Sid escapes and hides in the New World underground. So all that seems solid. Seath is celebrated as a hero of Anor Londo. So Seath marries Guinevere and becomes Duke. Gwyn gives Lord Soul Shard to Seath. Seath acquires the Grand Archives and Primordial Crystal. Shira is born to Seath and Guinevere. The Pygmy Lord dies and is replaced by Pygmy King Council. By a Pygmy King Council. Let's do this. The Pygmy Lord. We don't know when exactly the Lord dies. He could have died in the conflict or something, and there's always the possibility that the Lord could have died theoretically before the dragon hunt. Actually, no, that can't be possible because the point is that all 4 lords are involved in the challenging of the dragon, so the Pygmy Lord has to be alive here. And he most likely did participate in the fight itself, so he could have died in the conflict. We'll put this here. The Pygmy Lord and Ring Knights contribute. There we go. Yeah, that's all I can really say. I think that's fair. We're not given too many specifics. Obviously, they had to fight at the Vanguard because they're taking the heads and stuff as trophies, much like some of the other ones. But like is that like the only role they played was just to be fodder at the front line? Probably, but like I don't think it's fair to. I don't think it's fair to put too many details there for this. Humans permitted to spread across the world. Manus permitted to leave Ring City. Oh wait, let's see. Leaves Ring City and founds Ulasil. Manus invents and spreads dark sorcery. Alvina, Shalquar, Cats, etc. are born at Ulasil. It's not Shalquar could, of course, stuff be born later, but I'm just doing this as a general point. Manus dies and is buried at Royal Wood. Anor Londo gives Ulasil Mushroom Men. Ulasil and Mushroom Men invent white trees. Ulasil adopts light sorcery over dark sorcery. Subsequent human settlers found Baldur, Xena, etc. Okay. Humans begin worshipping medials as gods. Guinevere becomes popular harvest goddess among mankind. Lord's Blade are established to remove and quiet the gods' enemies. Let's just say remove the gods' enemies, because you could argue quieting them down sort of falls under that umbrella as well. Could have died a normal death or killed by a certain someone. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, we have no idea. Like, if you want to get full conspiratorial, you could even make a case that, like, you know, Gwyn purposely threw the Pygmy Lord into a suicide mission, knowing that the Lord would perish from this, and use this as an opportunity. Like there's so many ways you can take this scenario and run with it. All we can say for certain is that at some point, maybe it was just dying of old age, you know, maybe the Pygmy Lord had a full life by the time the dragon hunts had concluded and stuff like that. And you know what? Eventually he's gotta just kick the bucket, right? And it was all clean. And then there's just a matter of succession, right? Like there's so many ways to put this. Kiaran distinguishes herself to Gwyn as Lord's Blade. Humans visit Anor Londo. Sed's fortress is converted to a border checkpoint. Gods establish covenants with humans. I want to include this because I think it's important to establish covenants and the concept in them, because the priesthoods, the human priesthoods, are established for individual gods. That's the earliest covenants we can identify. And there is general idea that covenants are between man and the divine. The catacombs are constructed to bury priests. Royal smithy forms to bury priests for Nito. Let's put that. Royal smithy forms crossbow bowl pact with humans. Yeah, we don't need to specify in Orlando now that's under this subheading. Artorias meets Sif and Alvina in Ulasil Forest. Artorias trains in Ulasil Forest. Artorias meets Sif and teaches the wolf swordplay. His swordplay. Artorias and Sif befriend Alvina. Artorias distinguishes to himself to Gwydus as companion, right? This seems to be, yeah, this seems to be as far as that Artorias just became really strong, and it seems to be his strength is tied to his training, learning from beasts like Sif as a wolf and all that. Seath collects 5-legged bivalve / lake beasts, and lake beasts from Ash Lake for experiments. Yeah, that makes sense. Seath makes silver crown with bivalve perch to give Shiro. I'm including this. I could delete this, but I'm including this for now just to remind myself, like, yeah, we have the Shira connection here. Humans join witches of Izalith and establish witches of Izalith underground and establish city of Izalith. Jeremiah and Izalith conceive son, ceaseless discharge. Izalith performs ritual with daughters and creates flame of chaos. It goes Izalith and 2 daughters. Flame of chaos ravages land of Izalith. Just to clarify. There we go. Ceaseless ravages land of there we go. Ceaseless discharge is born as the first chaos demon. Izalith and daughters, bed of chaos, regain control over flame of chaos. Izalith rebuilds as capital of chaos. Bed of chaos births first demons. The first demons are born to bed of chaos and become fire sages. Izalith and daughters invent pyromancy. Quailana develops non-chaos pyromancy. Bed of chaos births more demons. Births more demons. Let's put 4 new human medial demon civilization. There we go. There we go. Izalith invents chaos weaponry. Daughters of Chaos gift ceases discharge ring to ease his sore. Ring produces centipede demon. Ceases discharge drops it. Let's put this capitalized so we remember that. Good evening, Celeste. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Quelaag and Quelaag and Fair Lady become chaos demons. Seath and Velka have an affair, and Priscilla is born. Priscilla and her life hunt are... Is it one word or two words with life hunt? I actually forget how the localization works this. 1 second, chat. Let's see, chat. Dark Souls 3 would have under life hunt site, right? They have it 1 here. Okay, yeah, it's life hunt 1 word. Okay, gotcha. Good to know. So Priscilla and her life hunt power are revealed, are exposed. They are revealed and cause a scandal. Child Priscilla is imprisoned at the Undead Asylum. How is it that Vamos is the blacksmith god? We have the royal helm and stuff that he keeps as a good connection between him, because there's clearly a close relationship between the Gwyn's firstborn and the blacksmith deity. They seem to have been close before the blacksmith god's death. There's also the and then there's the fact of the royal helm and stuff like that. There's only like 3 royalties in Lordran at the time. There'd be the Ulasilian royalty, the Izalithian royalty, and of course the Anor Londo royalty. And then there's the fact that Vamos is found inside the catacombs. Again, the catacombs is clearly built as a burial ground for Anor Londo's priests. So after all these humans who become part of the clergy, or I guess effectively servants to the gods, right? And then they end up dying and perishing. They are buried in the catacombs, and the catacombs, of course, is also a gateway straight to Nito's domain, right? Because the point is to, you know, give them to Nito, hence why they're buried there. And the same thing for the gods themselves. Nito is is resting in the gods' burial chamber and stuff. So gods also are put through this route all the way over to it. So the idea that the blacksmith deity has died, what are they going to do with the body? Assuming that they collect it, well, they're going to, of course, take it to bury it around where the other gods should be buried or whatever. Well, Nito's not really their friend right now during this era when the blacksmith deity dies, again post Gwyn Firelinking and all this, and Nito's kind of cut off ties a lot with the gods. He's kind of being a little pissy about everything. And so really all they're going to do is be able to bury the body, and then whatever happens after there, you can argue like how does he reanimate on his own because of his strong will? Does he end up getting necromancified? Blah, 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 like anything you could talk about. But the point is that Vamos ultimately goes back and does his own thing. And then there's the fact that Vamos was around when the events of the before New Londo was flooded. He saw the Flame Ember, which we can acquire over in Izalith, was seen in New Londo. So he's familiar with New Londo and stuff like that, which already puts him to be over 1,000 years old like that. So already either he is a really exceptionally old human, or he's a long living medial. And then there's the fact that he is only interested in the stuff known to, the fire embers that are the ancient embers. Every other ember he considers to be modern and like not really as good as the old ways. You know, it was better when everything was old and stuff. And the idea that these embers are fire embers were basically the original beginning embers. Well, there's only so many people who could be alive for so long, well past New Londo being flooded, and yet be familiar with these old methods and all the old embers and stuff, and be complaining about how, you know, you modern folk have it so, you know, don't know how good we had it black, you know, that type of thing. But you explain this in AA, right? It's all there. Yeah, it's all there, Celeste. Again, Abyssal Archive covers Dark Souls 1, period. Like I said, I cannot recommend, again, if you guys want, you know, just not to hear me rambling, but actually get like organized, written out arguments, cases, study for everything that we're covering here. Like, please look at Abyssal Archive. The digital copy is probably a very affordable one for you, and you'll be able to have so much content. You can easily Control F whenever you want to go back and be like, oh yeah, what was a piece of evidence for this or something like that, you know. Hey Nick, glad to see so many new folks returning to these streams. Welcome on in. Yeah, it's good to see new people in the chat always. Hey Macaroni, always happy to see you in there too. Hi. I don't know why the translator thing is translated to this, but whatever. Oh, this translation thing was such a mistake. Oh. Anyway, so where were we? Okay, yeah, Life Hunt. So Priscilla and her Life Hunt power revealed and caused a scandal. Child Priscilla is in prison at the Undead Asylum. Obviously, it wasn't an undead asylum, quote unquote, at the time, right? But it was prison, you know. Multiple failed attempts, failed assassination attempts on Priscilla. Ariamis creates painting world for Anor Londo prison. Now we're gonna keep this 4 crates to hang in Anor Londo gallery. There we go. Velka guides Priscilla into Ariamis as new prison. Velka manage Ariamis prison. Let's do this. Creates painting world to we don't need to get this specific for Anor Londo gallery. Velka and priests and her priests manage Ariamis prison. Redeemed prisoners become Corvians of Velka. Yeah, I like this bullet point stuff because we can conclude stuff like this a lot better. Venerators of Priscilla become generational painting guardians. Guinevere rewards painting guardians. Yeah, for keeping Priscilla locked away. Velka's a true loving mother. She is. Velka's bae. Let's see. Greedy gods of Anor Londo attempt coup. The greedy kill Gwyn's queen and are I guess we could say but are captured. And are subsequently captured. Actually, let's put it like this. Gwyn's queen dies. Let's just put that there. From Pantheon. Expels greedy clansman from Pantheon. Greedy clansman. Greedy clansman cursed are cursed to become there we go. Da da da. I have a chronology of DS trilogy timeline made by Lemmy Fa Cose / Mirko La Marca. Would you like to take a look? I mean, I have no problem. I have no problem with having other timelines and stuff. You can drop that in the Discord for the report to Loki if you have a document link or something. But I mean, again, I like to do this stuff independently first, and then I can cross-check and reference stuff with others to see if I'm missing anything or whatever. But if you guys, again, if there's anything in that timeline that you felt we want to mention here, feel free to. It's funny in these games, a lot of these mysterious mythical figures are often easier to identify and closer to our periphery than you think. A lot of the times this really is just Occam's razor. Well, yes, again, this is kind of the point, is like ultimately Miyazaki's not trying to be obscure, right? He's trying to tell a story, and he's just trying to tell that story in a way where you actually have to think. So what that basically entails is that you need to be looking at essentially the totality of the evidence, and you're going to get a rather complete and usually satisfactory story out of it. Especially when you include like stuff like say DLC. Like Dark Souls 1, it's a bit of a unique case because while there was while the DLC for Dark Souls 1 was originally planned for the game, it ended up being cut content, and it was cut content in a way that you don't really necessarily need it. You can kind of already deduce some broad things. Probably the only thing you would really change is you would probably not have specifically madness, but you'd have a general sense that the Dark Wraiths and Koth were probably involved in the collapse of Ulasil, trying to uncover and you know, resurrect its old heritage and stuff like that. But the point was that, like, you know, the game that we got was already basically largely complete and told a complete narrative, and then the DLC added on or expanded that narrative, but also pretty much kept it consistent, and it told the story. You could pretty much follow and deduce most things in the game, it seems like. 2 is a bit of a weird one because the developers themselves didn't really know what they were doing. It's very, you know, obviously game went through 2 directors. It's just one of those cases where they had they were in a very awkward spot where they didn't want to step on Miyazaki's toes, so they created a soft reboot scenario so they could basically be able to reference whatever they wanted without necessarily stepping on any of Miyazaki's characters, the fates of Miyazaki's characters and plot threads and stuff. So if he ever were to return to the Dark Souls franchise, he could continue those story threads from the first game that if he wanted, which he does, as we see with Dark Souls 3. But it just was this awkward thing where they had to figure out what they can do in order to tell a story without basically advancing it. And I get the sense, especially after some interviews that Miyazaki did in Elden Ring and with Night Rain and stuff like that, I get the feeling Miyazaki had actually pushed for like stuff like the fire linking stuff. Like I feel like the whole to link the fire, not link the fire, I think that was part of the reasons why the director stuff changed. Like he really wanted that to be part of the plot and be like a central focus of the narrative and stuff like that. And I think also I think he was probably whispering in the ears about Aldia when the DLC stuff came, because Aldia ends up being like that's so crucial in the events of like Lothric and stuff like that, and it seems to go back even into content to some extent. It just feels like it's one of those things where I get the feeling that probably Aldia was a character Miyazaki wanted created for Scholar, so that way he could then deconstruct his entire philosophy for Dark Souls 3, because that seems to be, you know, the main focus that DS3 is concerned with. And then there's the anyway, and then there's the then there's of course DS3 itself, which again it builds upon all things in the past games and is continuing to not only provide answers but also develop those answers and even new questions from those previous answers in order to try to have a more complete and fulfilled world. So I just feel like, again, overall Dark Souls has just been very well handled as a franchise overall, considering some of the travails it's had to go through, especially with 2 and stuff like that. So like, you know, big congrats to From Software for pretty, in my opinion, sticking the landing. Please don't make another one. I beg you, please let it die. We didn't need the sequels. So let's see. Grieving Gwyn lashes out and invents Blinding Bolt. Gwyn despoils Priscilla. Gwyn prohibits Blinding Bolt. Let's do this. Gwyndol is born to Gwyn and Priscilla. Where is raising Gwendolyn as a daughter? Get over here. There we go. I think this is fair. I think this is fair. There we go. To reflect the miracle stuff. Bandai Namco will curse you with a DS4. Listen, if you're gonna give me a DS4, make it a spin-off where we get to go to a store or something and fight the evil eye. Like, seriously, there are so many different areas of the world of Dark Souls that you could go into and explore and just make it into a richer IP. Do not just do a straight-up sequel where we have to now continue with the question of what to do, to link the fire or not to link the fire. Or God forbid they change it, be like, to resurrect the fire or continue pursuing down this age of dark. Like, oh God, like, just drop it. We don't need these stupid, big, low concept questions. Like, it's just I don't need to go into the weeds about this stuff. Just create a cool, fun game that lets me explore the world and like fight enemies and learn more about all the cool places and characters and things that exist. That's all I need. Hot take, much easier to say in hindsight, but I would have loved to see a DS1 where we get a shorter base game without Izalith and seeing them more fleshed out and other more story-heavy DLC. Ooh. Yeah, I could see that. I feel like it's a bit weird because, like, obviously Miyazaki from the start had the Four Lords and Seath as like central to the themes and narrative that he wanted to explore for Dark Souls, right? So he was always going to be including them. I'll be honest though, if we ever did get a spin-off about the backstories for any of these games, I would love it. Yeah, give me a story set in Izalith that focuses on the rise and fall of the culture, right? That it would be a cool narrative on its own, right? That's the thing. These games have so much narrative potential to mine and expand upon, and explore in more detail. I wouldn't want to make it multimedia, though that's always a possibility. I would just want I would just want them to make more games and to maybe experiment a little. Like, for example, now that they have Night Rain and stuff, maybe our next maybe this again hypothetical Izalith game, maybe you play as like a demon character, right? Where you're someone who maybe looks human, but you're kind of like Quelaag and the Fair Lady, where like you have demon traits attached to it, and it lets you do, I don't know, like you have like a demon centipede arm that lets you do the slingshot of the Wilder or something, right? So you can kind of just like jump around and go across arenas more than any Dark Souls stuff protagonist, right? And they can justify it that way. And you know, they don't even have to like, they always love to have some lore reason for why you can respawn and stuff like that. But really, you don't really need to do something like that. But if you really want to, you could just say, oh, you have the power of chaos and it's so fiery and burning within you that it is keeping you from resisting true death or something. I'm generally baffled that we didn't see Astora in DS3 considering I'm not surprised. Again, Astora falls, it becomes Londor, and you know, Londor ends up becoming a Londor ends up becoming like obviously a huge faction and stuff, but it's something where you learn more about Londor than actually, you know, it's not like you're visiting or anything like that. I think that's fine. I think for the role that Astora and Londor have in the narrative, I think they work. But again, would I love if we ever got a game that actually did focus on, say, the backstory and stuff of Astora? Yeah, of course. Like I said, I can say this for all this stuff. I would love to go to Ferosa. Ferosa could be cool. There could be cool stuff happening. I mean, honestly, DS2 setting, if you want to just do a Dark Souls spinoff and you didn't want it to interfere with canon or something, you can't really go wrong with the New World in Dark Souls 2. I'm just saying, like, you can do a lot with the different countries and stuff, and you can make a smaller scale thing. Like, you can just make it a small scale story about conflicts between Alkin and Ven and other countries involved at the time, and like just expand the history of that era. Like, there's a lot you can do with the Dark Souls setting that doesn't require you to do a big numbered sequel. The question is just like if From Software and Miyazaki are going to allow it to happen. I guess that also comes down to a question of if Namco Bandai are willing to sell out the IP. Because let's be honest, if they start allowing companies besides From Software to work on games like this, oh boy. We have to be, we're going to start entering the phase where we have to start questioning. We're going to start having tiers of canon soon. I don't want to ever imagine a world where that's the case. Dark culture gradually pushed, dark culture is gradually pushed to the fringes of human society. Well, we won't use World of Man here. Dark Souls visual novel. Yeah, sure. It's possible. Astora is attacked by the Evil Eye and saved by one most noble. Astora becomes country of pious knights. Dark culture degenerates into heathen word. Barbarians. Preserving barbarian tribes degenerate into heathen worship. I would rather have some Elden Ring spinoff, to be honest, but well, I'm biased. I'll be honest, I like Elden Ring, but it's definitely not something where I feel passionate about like I feel about Dark Souls. Like, I would prefer Bloodborne, Dark Souls, or Demon Souls over anything more coming from Elden Ring, to be honest. I think we have enough with Elden Ring yeses. I also just feel like, I've said this before, I feel like ER is just inherently, it's just inherently as a setting, it's harder to make sequels for. Because it's so much of it revolves around the narrative of Marika and the demigods and all that stuff. Like, that's ultimately, you know, like that's like the whole thing that Martin wrote and stuff like that. So it's like, in order to tell a sequel after we've already gone through the story of the demigods and all that stuff and write upon that in like a proper numbered sequel, it would be really difficult. And then you have to also find an excuse for how you can change the setting significantly enough that exploring the world won't feel stale. So it's just, it has so many, it has so many problems before it, that can easily, feel forced. if anything, you'd probably have to bring Martin back and have him come up with new ideas and stuff, where it's like, okay, you have the Elden Ring, but there's now like a new family that appears in the wake of the demigods and all the events that happen in the first game after the stuff with the Tarnished. And for some reason, the Tarnished King of War has become like out of relevant, because we all know how Elden Ring's gonna go. It's gonna become another, you have to become the king, and like this is just the way that Miyazaki conceives of his games and stuff. So it's gonna somehow have to come back to this general concept, and you're gonna have to fight new people in order to get shards of the Elden Ring or something, probably. So like I said, it just creates this really kind of awkward, it doesn't lend itself to a sequel in the same way that I admit Dark Souls did. Dark Souls with the whole fire linking thing did lend itself to a sequel, even though I don't think it should have gotten sequels. Because it was perfectly fine as just one game, but there was potential there. Demon Souls has plenty of potential there, because there, you know, Demon Souls speaks to the inherent flaws, you know, man's original sin, right? And the idea that this sinful nature of man will naturally lead them to eventually awaken the old one and cause another calamity with demons, right? So you could put demons, you could just like set something so far into the future that all the events of the original Demon Souls have been forgotten, and someone else with such hubris or whatever reason, like with King Alon's case, will decide that they are going to awaken the old one and try to destroy the entire, effectively either intentionally or unintentionally destroy the entire world. So it's like, this is not a difficult not a difficult setting to work with Demon Souls. Same with Bloodborne. Bloodborne, you could definitely build a sequel for it. There's a little bit of limitations and stuff, right? But you could easily just move the events of Bloodborne to one of the neighboring cities across the water we see in the original BB, right? Like I've talked about this with Acer. You could do stuff like make it where the surviving the executioners, who seem to be the one faction largely unaffected by the events of the game, who they're the ones who pick up the pieces of the healing church or whatever, and because suddenly we have this more fanatical new healing church being founded in a neighboring town or city, right? And they like do stuff like, you know, you could do something creative, like, you know, they're actually creating beasts, but they're enslaving the beasts, and the beasts are like almost like slaves or beasts of burden or something that are like serving the people or whatever. Like there's a lot of different ideas and concepts you could play with, right? And then if you do something like make an open world game or something like that, you can really like go to the next level and having people like travel or whatever, and they can come back to like say Bergenworth or something, and then you could at some point you have to like do a cutoff point and maybe make it where they enter the Chalice Dungeon underground, but they never get to see Yharnam fully or something. Like I said, there's just there's things you could do there to play with it and keep the story going, and all you'd have to do is have someone else who comes in who's an outsider, who ends up either suffers amnesia or whatever other reason you have, is someone who is trying to explore this world and uncover all the terrible arcane happenings and things like that. So yeah, there's something new for Miyazaki, or 60 FPS Bloodborne on PC, but I wonder what new game they will make. I mean, they're making Dustbloods right now, so we'll see how that turns out. But like, assuming that pans out horribly, we can at least hope that their next IP or sequel will be something really good. Has Miyazaki ever made a sequel besides ZS3? It depends on if you count Armored Core games as sequels. Because he did work on Armored Core sequels, but they're not like it's a sequel to something he's already made, right? It's more so he is sort of helping, you know, adding his take to an existing IP's mythos, right? So it's a little different. But yeah, he's worked on other games before. Armored Core is also a weird one because like each numbered entry tends to be kind of a soft reboot where it's like a completely different setting, right? Like as far as I'm aware, I don't think, like, for example, I don't think, for example, Fires of Rubicon has any connection to the past Armored Core titles in terms of shared universe continuity or anything like that. To my memory, everything is, like always, completely isolated and separated from it, right? They may reuse terms or ideas or concepts or whatever, but there's nothing to really indicate that they're part of, like, the same history. So I think in that case, like, yeah, he's worked on sequels. He's made a sequel, sure, but it's not like a sequel to something that he's already developed himself before. And obviously with Rubicon especially, he didn't even direct it, right? He ultimately, he was just involved in the early stage development stages for the concept. All right, so let's see. Then we move here. Female barbarian tribes degenerate into heathen worship. Female heretics form witch tribes. Okay, we got that. Katarina is found across mountains from Lordran. Seath experiments on a few visiting humans and hides the evidence. Spo is rejected from the Vornites for his maniacal bloodlust. Jeremiah has an affair with Fina. Okay, I think... Yeah, I think that covers... Is there anything else we're missing from here? We covered Calamite. I mentioned the Calamite escaping and Sin escaping because I felt it was important to mention for both of them. Nothing for the countries. We have Baldur and stuff, but we don't have our relevant Night King yet. Most of the AC games he was a programmer for, I think. Oh, right. I have no idea what his work was before he started entering in the direction side, so that's actually good to know. 2 is a continuation of first gen, and 4 and 5 are in the same world. Okay, so there are some that are in the same world. Okay. As someone who's very casual when it comes to AC and has never really too much cared for the stories, I always definitely felt like they were new ideas every time. But okay, good to know. Does he prefer more standalone games? Just my impression, though. I think it's easier for him to work on standalone games because he's not limited by so many factors on making him. Like I was talking about last stream, just like I think so many circumstances get in the way of him ever working on a sequel and stuff like that. But he at least he's on record that he likes working on sequels and he enjoys taking existing stuff and then building upon and developing their ideas to their logical conclusions. So he definitely does. It could just be PR speak, but at the very least, he seems to be someone who likes it a lot. But I think he's probably more enthusiastic when he gets to making a new IP and stuff because he doesn't have to worry about any type of limitations with working with publishers or consoles or any of that stuff. You have just a few articles of DS on your website because then you wrote AA. Well, yes, around the time when I first got started in the English community, I was doing Reddit posts, and those website articles are essentially a reposting of those old Reddit posts, effectively, right? And I just kind of preserve them for the sake of posterity. It was easier than like after, because again, you guys have to remember, I started doing some of my posts on Reddit. I started adding myself to Twitter and stuff like that. I started posting Google Drive docs on Twitter. Then I eventually got the website up and running and had all my content and stuff moved there. And I deleted the old Reddit posts. Like I said, I reposted them on the website because it was just easier to have it all in one place. And then I added new articles for Demon Souls and stuff like that. By the time the website and stuff was up with the updated post, I had already I was already working on Abyssal Archive. So therefore, once AA was in production, just common courtesy to the publisher, I'm not gonna like spoil quote unquote the content for that. So I ended up not posting anything more on the Dark Souls 1 content sphere. But then I keep all my other stuff for 2 and 3, or at least most of the content there. All that's available publicly for you guys, so. AC was what I learned about From Software from. AC is what I first played From Software stuff, but I'm someone who doesn't really pay attention to what, to like dev teams and stuff. I've become more cognizant of that now, because of working with, on these games and stuff with From Software and stuff like that. So I've become a lot more aware since then. But I'm someone where it's like, I didn't even know that From Software was responsible for both Armored Core and Dark Souls. Like I would never have, I would have never have like conceived of that. It never would have clicked for me because they're such different games to my mind. I heard of Kingsfield in name, but I don't no idea what it was or that From made it. It sounded like a turn-based strategy game or something to kid me. Yeah, Kingsfield definitely was not a game on my radar. I had no idea it existed. I knew Demon Souls existed. I remember when Demon Souls had come out. I remember seeing the stuff with like the Ostrava Knight on the cover and things like that. So I do remember Demon Souls and stuff like that. It was Dark Souls though that really that kind of really dragged me in after Armored Core stuff. Anyway, focusing now on what we have here. I think we've covered all the stuff for this era, and I think it's organized better now, but if there's anything else that I may be forgetting, you guys can always remind me. All right, next, now to when the undead stuff happens. So the flame fades, dark sun emerges among the dead of man and produces undead. Pus of man emerges amongst pygmies of the ring city. Human countries fall to undead. Yeah, that makes sense. 2 hollows we'll put. I think that's fair. Anor Londo is sealed off from outsiders. Sen's fortress is converted into a prison. Gwyn sends out Lloyd to shepherd the humans. Lloyd establishes the Way of White in Thorland. Anor Londo sends relic weaponry to Way of White. Lloyd's cleric knights hunt the undead. Lord's blades are armed with Lloyd's talismans. Heathens and heretics are captured and transferred to Ariama's prison. Gwyn, Isleth, and Nito collaborate to invent the undead bonfire. Yep. Okay. Nito invents basic rite and begins iterating upon it. I added this one because I think it's important to note when we talk about rite of kindling stuff later. Lloyd and Guinevere collaborate to select firekeepers from Holy Women. I think this is the best way to word this. So I'm happy with it. This is how I rewrote that. Gwyn tasks Gwendolyn with managing the dark in Ring City. Managing the Ring City. Giant Adjudicator sent to attend to Filianor. Shira, Medea, and Painting Guardian sent to attend to Filianor. Way of White. The Way of White spreads to the Ring City priesthood. Church of Filianor establishes Spears of the Church to protect her. Now, let's just do that. The Church of Filianor. Ring City insurgents secretly construct Purging Monument. We'll have that there. Anor Londo constructs New Londo for... Actually... Let's put this down here. Let's put this down here for the monument stuff here. Because you have this, you have the heathens, right? Let's put barbaric heathens here. All right, let's see. Actually, let's just put it heathens. Try and fail to steal power from Nito. Ring City insurgents secretly construct purging. Okay, yeah. Gwyn tasks Gwendolyn with managing the Ring City. Establishes Peers of the Church. We don't need to put the Protector stuff, I think. I think this is important just to clarify. Yeah. Pus of man expunged or cleansed with fire. There we go. Yeah, that's how, that I feel is important to make a point on that, because we talked about the pus of man earlier, so we may as well also include it here. Pus of man cleansed with fire. Heathens try and fail. Ring City Surgeons secretly create the Purging Monument. Isleth rebels. It cuts off influence as flame imminently fades. I don't think we need to clarify this. We'll just say rebels and cuts off contact. Cuts off contact/trade. Gwyn and Firstborn prep invasion of Isleth. Vamos forges Black Knight armor and weapons to challenge the Chaos Demons. There we go. Jeremiah learns about impending invasion from Fina, warns Isleth. The Horse of Information is revealed, and Jeremiah is exiled. Let's just put Jeremiah as exiled. For source of information. There we go. Exiled Jeremiah is captured and transferred to Ariama's prison. Anor Londo invades Isleth. Batwing demons defect Anor Londo, receive sunlight power. Asylum demons and chimeras taken captive as prisoners of war. Quaylana's sister dies and she flees to fringes of Isleth. Anor Londo exterminates Isleth's human population. Anor Londo forms peace pact with Isleth prohibit. Oh. Wait, we don't need this. I need to stop doing that, chat. Forms peace pact with Isleth and prohibiting demons from leaving. Peace with alignment and seals away demons. There we go. This reminds me of how the Age of Fire comic is. Yeah, Age of Fire comic is I will say I can appreciate some of the work that went into the art, though some of it gets very well memey, as we know. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where the moment that Namco Bandai opens the floodgates, it allows new games to be created by like people who are not from software. We're in a very bad spot as far as the lore is concerned, because anything's gonna go. I do not trust other people, especially if they're not getting consulted by FromSoft. Gwyn and his army return with spoils of war. Gwyn prepares for fire linking. Mausoleum to Gwyn is constructed beneath Cathedral. Gwyn tasks Sons with guiding the humans, and Orlando locks down the Ring City, and Orlando sends Batwing demons as carriers for royal envoys. Fëanor performs sleep ritual to keep the Ring City in stasis. Midir leaves to hunt the Abyss. Chimeras receive sunlight power and become Ulasil Mausoleum Guardians. Lord Vessel set up for new undead mission to link the fire. Undead fire linking mission. Or undead fire linking mission. Gwyn divides up power amongst the clan. Firstborn inherits Gwyn's sunlight spirit along with Throne and Orlando. Gwyn inherits Lord Vessel along with mission to await undead hero. I think the only thing we really need to mention. Gwyn leaves with only the clothes on his back and his greatsword. Black Knights split from Silver Knights and follow after Gwyn. Okay, good to know, Celeste. Black Knights split, yeah. And the fire is linked. TM here. Bye bye. Have a good night. See you, Macaroni. Be safe. Sleep well. Yeah, I don't mind having a look at it, Celeste. Let's see. Again, though, again, all I can really say is obviously whatever you guys over in the Italian side are cooking up might be different from mine, but you guys know I have this all publicly here for at least this game, so you guys can see that. Which fictional universe do you think would be the roughest to live in? Warhammer, Mad Max, Lovecraft, Made in the Abyss? I mean, Lovecraft is basically our world, but occasionally there is awful, eldritch, horrific things happening. So I feel like the idea being like, oh, it's just our world, but yeah, in certain very niche situations, you might get screwed over by eldritch gods. That's still like 99.9% of the world. That's just normal. So I think that would be fine. Mad Max is pretty sucky. But then Warhammer. God, would I want to live in the world of Warhammer? I don't know. There has to be good. There has to be people who are living okay somewhere in Warhammer. Made in Abyss. Enough said. I think overall, I think Mad Max would probably be the suckiest. I think it's probably the one that's most brutal to the average person on day to day. Because you're constantly concerned about just surviving, just making it to the next day in Mad Max, I feel. And as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's anywhere in the Mad Max universe where that isn't the case, right? Because the entire point is that it's all just post-apocalyptia, right? So like it's not like it's like, oh no, this is like, you know, this is just like one part of the planet or something. So I get the feeling like that would probably be the roughest to live in. Warhammer, Lovecraft, or Made in the Abyss, you can at least have some relief at some point, and likely in large points of life, depending on how you're going about and living your life, I feel. Anyway, moving on. Black Knights are burned to ash and become wandering spirits in blackened armor. So we are now post fire linking. We are beginning the 1,000 years to get to the events of Dark Souls 1 shit. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's see. New Londo falls to the dark. I think this would be a good way to put it. So Khat seduces the four kings and shares Life Drain. New Londo Knights learn Life Drain. Learn Life Drain from Koth. I'd love to live in a world infested by a centipede. Isn't our world already infested by a centipede? It's like a lot of centipedes. Like, aren't there a lot of centipedes infesting our world everywhere in the dirt? I don't think you need to go far for that one, I am. How do we put this? Dark Wraiths. Nah, we shouldn't put this. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Yeah. So we'll just call them Dark Wraiths going forward, just for sake of simplicity. Similar to what we did with Black Knights. Dark Wraiths, New Londo Knights, Dark Wraiths, learn Life Drain from Koth. Four Kings. Send out Dark Wraiths. Send out Dark Wraiths to terrorize World of Man. Dark Wraiths. Drain souls of saints. Dark Wraiths. Take home send out Dark Wraiths to World of Man and terrorize society. Let's just say terrorize the public. To World of Man. To the World of Man. Our centipede is known as the World Wide Web. Dark Wraiths take home human bodies. New Londo cooks and dines on to feed populace. New Londo dines on human bodies and souls. Knight, insurgent knights start rebellion. Insurgent sorcerer priests activate seal of New Londo. No, let's just play priest flood New Londo to seal Dark Wraiths. I love how New Londo is just a big cave. Hey, it's a big city in a big cave. Let's see. To the World of Man. Dark Wraiths drain souls of saints and terrorize the public. Dark Wraiths take home human bodies to feed populace. New Londo dines. Insurgent Knights start rebellion. Insurgent Sorcerer Priest flood New Londo to seal Dark Wraiths. Oh, we should also point out terrorize the public. Kirk becomes the Thorn Knight. Dark Wraiths take human bodies to feed populace. New Londo dines on human bodies and souls. Insurgent Knights start rebellion. Oh no, let's the Four Kings. The Four Kings create the Abyss in Clerical Sanctum. There we go. Create the Abyss in Clerical Sanctum. Insurgent Knights start rebellion against Dark Wraiths. Insurgents Sorcerer Priest flood New Londo to seal Dark Wraiths and seal Dark Wraiths. I think that's all the major stuff to mention. It's flooded. Oh, wait. How can we forget? Anor, Londo, Seals, passage to New Londo. Sends Wyverns and Seals passage to New Londo. That actually reminds me. Let's go back up here. With managing the prison. Anor Londo sends Archdragon. Asgard. Yeah, that's probably this way. As prison ward. Let's just put it as this, as prison warded. Let's actually put it like this. Posts Archdragon as prison warden. There we go. So we have the dragons there. New Londo. Oh, actually, that's what reminds me. See. And Orlando collects. We'll do this. Yeah, this makes sense. And Orlando collects surviving Archdragons. Well, Archdragons for pet/servants. There we go. Oh, we should also mention the Iron Golem, huh? Seath celebrates hero. Shira is born. Anor Londo constructs Iron Golem. There we go. See, chat, this is how we work through stuff we forget. Oh, that's not New Londo. All right, so that's not New Londo. There we go. Da-da-da. All right, so Insurgent Knights start rebellion against Dark Rays. Insurgent Sorcerers. Anor Londo sends Wyvern, sends Archdragon and Wyverns. Anor Londo seals passage to New Londo. Anor Londo sends Archdragons and Wyverns. Posts Archdragon and Wyverns to Valley of Drakes. To New Londo through Valley of Drakes. Post Archdragon and Wyverns in Valley of Drakes. Or let's say sends here. And Wyverns to Valley of Drakes as guards. Anor Londo appoints Artorias to hunt the Dark Wraiths. This is another point we should make. Surviving Dark Wraiths scatter. Or let's put this: surviving Dark Wraiths outside New Londo scatter. There we go. New Londo appoints Artorias to hunt the Dark Wraiths. The what's the word? The errant dark wraiths. Artorias receives an Orlando gifts royal gift silver pendant to Artorias. Artorias engraves crest on silver pendant to Artorias for resist the abyss. Artorias was kind of incompetent in this whole ordeal. It wasn't his job. Again, the whole point was that, if anything, the one who you should be blaming here is Gwyn's firstborn. How the hell is all this happening under King Firstborn's watch, you know? Like, literally, it's right there. Now, granted, we all know why. It's because Velka, but... like, ah! There we go. The Dark Wraiths acted on their own, or were they captained by Koth? Koth considers that the four... So the four kings... So, Koth and the Primordial Serpents act as the sage advisors to the four kings. Right, so that's their role here. The four kings, in cooperation with Koth, are sharing life drain with the knights and stuff, right? Like, so, you know, keeping loyal and doing that. And they go on to do really bad and heinous shit, right? Koth believes that the four kings didn't actually heed what he was telling them, that they didn't properly understand the point he was making, and instead of actually working to becoming the Dark Lord, the four basically kind of just fell into depravity. So all the subsequent terrorizing of the world of man and cannibalism stuff, that seems to be something that Koth may have been okay with up to a point, but he definitely feels like it became pointless and was doing far more harm than any good, because it wasn't actually accomplishing the end goal, which was we need to go over, kill Gwyn, and end the Age of Fire, overthrow the gods and all that. And the four kings weren't really accomplishing that. They seem to have just been essentially fattening themselves up while literally destroying their own kind. So, I don't want to say they were acting on their own entirely per se, right? But it's very clear that there was a divergence of views, and Koth was not happy with the four kings, which is why he then goes for Ulasil, because he feels like, hey, you know, maybe if I get people who are so easily seduced by power, they end up being completely consumed by power and not actually listening to my higher ideals I'm preaching to them. Maybe I should get people who are actually really principled, and then try to then bring them in that way. And it was working to a point, but then the unprincipled nobles underneath the royalty take over. Right? And they kill the principled ones. So Koth's like, well, fuck. That didn't work either. So then that's where he basically decides he's going to rely on a singular individual who proves the circumstances that they are going to basically recognize that the four kings are evil, but not just because Framp tells them to, right? So be like, hey, I'm going to destroy these terrible, evil, awful individuals, but it's not at the behest of the gods, right? It is by my own personal determination, right? And that's what Koth sees, recognizes, and decides makes us qualified to become the Dark Lord. Corruption got that's sort of the point, right? It's like ultimately, like, Koth is really, like, again, like, not to like be like, you know, the firstborn, and, you know, he definitely didn't, he's definitely, you know, he's definitely not his father and stuff like that. Like, Koth definitely made mistakes as well, right? Like, he's not this perfect individual. It's right, just because, like, as I would say, like, the point of, like, you know, Miyazaki in Demon Souls was telling a classic good or evil story, and then his idea for Dark Souls was just, okay, tell the classic good and evil story, but the sides are flipped, right? The point, though, is not to say, though, that, like, the side on the dark is like this perfect model of moral goodness and blah 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 blah. No, like, there's always a lot of nuance and things to talk about when it comes to the dark and all that, and the setting in Dark Souls as a whole and what it means. And the largest point to be made here is that, you know, Koth is not, like, you know, was not a perfect individual. It's not like, you know, Koth was actually really just, you know, the really nice and good guy. It's like no. He still taught them how to suck souls and stuff with the obvious purpose of taking it. It wasn't just the Saints that they were doing it to. They were ultimately doing it to innocents as well. And to some extent, Koth had to have foreseen that was coming. So there's definitely plenty of stuff that, and like I said, there's tons of stuff that Koth probably should have seen was coming. It's like, hey, you know what? When I'm trying to seduce people with power, because I know that they are weak-hearted men, maybe I should expect those weak-hearted men not to stay consistent with my vision for long either. Yeah, with Londor, he finally succeeds and stuff like that, right? Like, obviously, the idea is that however the events canonically play out in Dark Souls 1, ultimately, the Chosen Undead leaks the fire, right? Koth never gets to have it, but eventually with Londor, he does make it work. So that way, at least after his death, him and the Primordial Serpents mission can be finally completed, and the world will be properly guided to its natural course that it should have always been following. But the point being is that, yeah, like, it takes a while. And again, even in Dark Souls 3, you can choose not to do the Londor ending. So really, whether Koth finally succeeds or not in his dying wishes fulfilled is ultimately up to the player's choice, right? So that's the nice thing about Limia 3 is that we can discuss the different scenarios. None of it has to be canonical yet. Anyway, Artorias engraves crest on silver pendant. Artorias meets with Alvina and is cursed. Yeah, I think that's enough. We know the weapon, the Fiends of the and is cursed to receive oh god, what's that stupid ring called? Oh, I forget what the ring is called. Is it called Crest of Artorias? That doesn't sound right in my brain. I forgot what that stupid ring to enter the Four Kings boss arena is called. Yeah, I cannot remember it off the top of my head. But and to receive ring for walking, for abyss walking. There we go. All right. Adult Londo gives silver pendant to Artorias to resist the abyss. Artorias engraves his crest on silver pendant. Artorias meets with Alvina to receive ring for abyss walking. Artorias hunts the Dark Wraiths. Sets out into the world, hunting the actually no, hunts the Dark Wraiths across the world. Actually, you know what? Let's make this simpler for me. We say they scatter, the scattered Dark Wraiths. Hunts the Dark Wraiths across the world. Yeah, that's fine. Crest of Artorias is the key to Sith. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, it's not that one. I just forget what the Abyss Ring is called. Covenant of Artorias. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you. It's the Covenant of Artorias. Duh. Actually, you know what? That's better. Forms covenant with Alvina. First covenant with Alvina for abyss walking ring. There. I think that's the simpler way. So he gets the Covenant of Artorias from the Fiend of the Abyss. Resist the Abyss. Artorias hunts the Dark Wraiths across the world. Okay. Oh, you know what? We forgot Nito. Nito has to be Nito cuts off contact. Trade with Anor Londo. Nito Horde's secret advanced rite of kindling. There we go. Anything else we want to add here? No. Oh, wait. Leroy dies and becomes Way of White's first undead. Around this point, because he gets himself a red eye orb, probably hunting the dark race, and he probably dies to dark race himself and ends up as an undead. Artorias hunts the dark race across the world. Yeah, okay, I think that's good for this. So Artorias hunts the dark race across, doing all that. Leroy. Yeah, Leroy I can't believe they made the Leroy Jenkins reference. God. From Software is the company which they tell very serious stories, and yet they can be so unserious at the same time. It's so funny, the shit that they'll pull. Leroy is sent on churches. Is sent to Lordran to retrieve Rite of Kindling from Nito. Let's actually do this. Leroy receives mission to retrieve Rite of Kindling from Nito. Way of White. Way of White provides Grant and Sanctus to Leroy. Leroy travels to Lordran and defects to Nito. The Way of White. Actually, let's do it better. The Way of White begins undead mission for Rite of Kindling. Leroy. Yeah, okay, this is better. Leroy sees mission. There we go. Receives mission along with Grant and Sanctus. There we go. Because this... Okay, so this I think solidifies it. Leroy travels to Lordran and defects to Nito. The Way of Light sends all subsequent undead on mission. On mission. I'm trying to think, is there any scenario I think that pretty much covers it, right? Like that pretty much fills everything that we'd want here. So then, yeah, so we have the Nito hoarding thing. Leroy dies, he becomes the first undead, so he becomes the first undead for their mission. And after that mission, clergy, blacksmith dies. expedition sets up outpost in Tomb of the Giants. Cleric, blacksmith in outpost dies resisting Nito's forces. Yeah, I can't think of any other major thing. Obviously, before Pinwheel does the betrayal, but that's later. That we'll put that later down the timeline. Yeah, so I think that covers the stuff with Nito. Islith and stuff is not relevant yet. And Orlando sets up new undead mission for firelinking. Gwendolyn establishes trial of stoicism in Ulasil. I would like to publicly thank Leroy for every run he's given me, early game Souls and Mask of the Child 4. Godspeed you. All right, let's see. We have the establishing the trial of stoicism. Undead sent to Ulasil and captured in prison. In prison for trials. We don't know. There probably were those who did. Probably about this point, we should also say Sen's fortress is converted to a trial ground. By this point, Sen's fortress is probably already a trial ground, like most likely. Actually, we can't say that for absolute certain. It could have been you just were able to go straight to An Orlando after fulfilling the trial. I don't know though. Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, we're having centuries of this stuff happening. I will leave it here today. I'll think this one over on whether or not I want to include this here or only for later. I have to go through and review the evidence again. Undead. Okay, so Undead Parish is not here yet. Anything with the firstborn stuff? Oh wait, you know what? Let's just put this back up here. Firstborn visits Ulasilian Fortress. Yeah. Let's put Ulasil. Just to keep it consistent with the way I have it. Yeah, okay. So we have that from his portraits and stuff. We'll keep that going. To a trial ground. To a trial ground with traps, I guess we should say. Actually, I don't think we need to mention the traps part because that's kind of inherent. Oh, let's see. Ended expelled from homeland, sent to Ulasil and captured Sent to Ulasil. Captured, imprisoned for trial. Sin's fortress is converted to a trial ground for jurors of trial of stoicism. I think that more or less covers that bit. All right, so this is probably, you know, close to the 1,000-year mark, probably a few years into it or what have you, but then we basically fast forward a few centuries at least. Do we have to skip over all the way to the 300-year mark? Is there anything DST? No, nothing with Calamite. Nothing with Sin or anything, or any of the Arch Dragons, I don't think. Nothing with, obviously, we still don't have Undead Settlement. Oh, I'm sorry, Undead Settlement. Undead Burg and Blight Town. Oh, wait. This reminds me. Scatter. See, New Londo Sealers remain as to watch over Seal. Yeah, that's important to clarify. Yeah, okay. Also, I can see myself putting this as a separate event of let's keep it all under the Fall to the Dark thing for now, because it's all like part of the one's big event and stuff like that. But set up undead mission for Firelinking. Gwyn establishes the trial of Stoicism. Okay. All right, so the Sealers, obviously they have to do their job and stuff like that. I think that pretty much covers everything. Yeah. Oh no, actually no. Let's actually include this. Over Seal. New Londo Sealers. Receive occasional visitors and cure curses. There we go. Just to kind of establish that. Did Ingward meet Artorias at some point? No. Everything he speaks about with regards to Artorias is, he clarifies, especially in JP dialogue, that secondhand information. Which is why he doesn't know Artorias is dead. He still thinks Artorias is alive. Right? Because you have to understand, Ingward and his crew, they've been stuck in a cave, a dank, dark cave, for God knows how long. Like almost 1,000 years. Like actually, yeah, 1,000 years basically, right? During that entire time, not only are they trying to stay sane through hollowing and stuff, which is why, of course, he's like, you know, selling stuff with souls and you know, all that jazz, to help him with the whole staying sane portion. But he's also effectively, he and the others were also effectively kind of just like chilling around. They set up like the wooden platforms we see, which bridge the flooded parts of New Londo with the blue magic fire and stuff for lighting. So, you know, it's sorcerers like them. So that way they can meet with people. And so as he admits, he receives, it's not common, but he does receive the occasional visitor. And like the Crestfallen warrior clarifies, it's known, there is rumor, it's known to the outside world in the area that sealers like Ingward can cure you of your curses and stuff. So so people will go to them for stuff like that, and they're going to hear things, right? So they're going to hear things about, oh, Artorias goes out, he's hunting the Dark Wraiths. Oh, that's cool. Obviously, that's relevant to Ingward. It's be like, oh, you guys are sealing the Dark Wraiths and stuff. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Artorias actually was apparently sent out to go and hunt the Dark Wraiths. Oh, really? That's cool and good to know, right? Now, he doesn't hear about how Artorias subsequently dies or anything like that, right? So maybe like somewhere down the line, he hears out the story of Ulasil. It's like, oh, Artorias is known to have traversed the abyss and defeated the dark wraiths related to that caused it, huh? Oh, that's so good to know and stuff like that. That's really great. I'm glad to know that he's helped. You know, my mission isn't in vain, that Artorias has been handling all that stuff or whatever. And then so in his mind, he's like, okay, well, maybe you can learn from Artorias how how to traverse the abyss and stuff like that safely, right? But he doesn't hear the part where it's like, oh yeah, you know, in that same mission, Artorias ends up dying and he's actually buried, you know, over in Darkroot Garden or something like that, right? Like that's a reasonable thing where he has incomplete information. All right, speaking of incomplete information, let's finish this. So Anor sets up a new undead mission for fire linking. Gwendolyn establishes the trial stoicism in Ulasil, undead expelled from a homeland sent to Ulasil and captured in prison for the trial. Sen's Fortress is converted to a trial ground. Or the let's see, prison sent to Ulasil prison for trial, for the trial of the trial. There we go. All right, if there's nothing else that I'm able to think of adding to this stuff, yeah, I think we'll just kind of move on. Let's actually add, I want to include Half-Light though, since we're bringing it up to that. Half-Light becomes last spear of the church. There we go. Just to clarify, right? The last delegation. Okay. So let's see. Sen's Fortress is converted to a trial ground for victors of the trial. What happens in that period? Obviously we have Salamon encounters Quelana, travels to encounters Quelana. Let's just say travels to Izalith because it's effectively where he was going. Travels to Izalith and encounters Quelana. Quelana teaches Salamon pyromancy. Salamon teaches pyromancy to world of man. To the world of man. Human society pushes pyromancers to the fringes. Let's see. Let's see. Let's put this. Human society rejects pyromancers as heretics. Salman establishes the Great Swamp. Or founds the Great Swamp. The Great Swamp for pyromancers. Let's just put this. Oh, yeah, okay, that'll work. The Way of White captures Fringe pyromancers, or let's put Frontier Pyromancers. Frontier Pyromancers are transferred to Ariamis prison. Ooh. Undead Pyromancers enter Ulysseal prison. And so all that happens. Heretics flock to the Great Swamp. Pyromancers. Heretics flock to the Great Swamp, and many become Pyromancers. Levi captures Frontier Pyromancers. Frontier are transferred to Ariamis prison. And transferred. Frontier Pyromancers are captured and transferred to Ariamis prison. Yeah, I think this is better. We already established that heretics and heathens get captured by the Way of White earlier, so it's better. So that way we can connect the dots better. Salomon, the Great Swamp. We don't even have to put Salomon here. The Great Swamp is founded by the Pyromancers. To the world of man. Salomon adopts Carmina as apprentice. Carmina develops fire within pyromancies. To Izalith to learn pyromancy, to learn primal pyromancies. The primal pyromancies. Salomon encounters Quelana on fringes. Quelana teaches Salomon pyromancy. Okay, yeah. I think it's fair. I think that's fair. I think that covers it pretty well. Like I said, I have to think if there's anything I'm missing in between this whole collapse of New Londo and, you know, the second system being set up in Ulysseal and the stuff with Salomon. Because I feel like there might be more stuff I'm forgetting that happens in between those events. Because it is quite a few centuries, but it could just be that we skip over those centuries and we're not supposed to pay attention too hard. Anyway, let's move on. Goff retires to Ulysseal. Actually, giant blacksmith joins royal smithy. In Orlando. Goth befriends giant blacksmith. Hey Bergs, welcome to the chat. Let's see. Goth retires to Ulysseal. Goth gifts giant blacksmith Hawkeye ring. leaves Hawkeye ring with giant blacksmith. There we go. Okay. Old Goff retires to Ulasil. Goff leaves Hawkeye ring with giant blacksmith. Goff takes up wood carving or enlightenment. We'll just say enlightenment. I'm saying Satori. Let's put it actually as for meditation. Or for self-reflection. I think that's a good way to frame it. For self-reflection. Whew. Is there anything else I'm forgetting in regards to the setup there? Oh, Dusk is born and raised by Elizabeth. We don't know if this is before or after Goff retires. Let's put some space there between this and Goff retiring. So, Dusk is born and raised by Elizabeth. As her wet nurse, I think we should clarify. And raised by Elizabeth as her wet nurse. Actually, good point to make with Ulasil and stuff. Or go earlier. And Orlando shares Titanite and Golem Craft with Ulasil. Yep, I think that's fair to include mention of. Ulasil receives greedy security chests. Just something to acknowledge. All right. With that, I think we can move on. Koth. Share seduces Ulasil. Let's see. Ulasil falls to the dark. Koth seduces Ulasil, royalty, king and queen. Let's just see Ulasil royalty, royal family. With Truth of Manus. Ulasil. Ulasil excavates royal wood and discovers Manus's grave. With truth of origins. Ulasil imprisons and let's see. Ulasil revives Well, let's see. Imprisons. Revived. Manus. And begin torturing. And torture him. And torture him for information. Ulasil imprisons Goff and torture and blind him. And torture / blind him. There we go. I think other major events, let's see. Ulasil, nobles, discover dark sorcery in their madness. Manus is driven mad and escapes back to grave. And escapes to grave. Escapes grave and becomes Father of the Abyss. Actually, I don't even like using that. Yeah, we'll keep it. Let's keep it. Ulasil gently think they deserve to live. I mean, Goff acknowledges, like, Ulasil had only themselves to blame. You could blame, they could like be like, but you know, it was Koth who tempted us by telling us about, it's like, Koth didn't tell you to do all this shit. You did that all on your own. So Manus is driven mad, escapes to grave. Owner of Abyss. It's owner of Abyss. Yeah, I think that's fine. Owner of Abyss. Let's see now. What do we do here? Nobles betray royalty. Let's keep this consistent. Nobility betrays royalty. Betrays and kills royalty. Dusk turns undead and escapes to Royalwood. Dusk turns Dusk turns undead and escapes to Ulasil mausoleum. With Elizabeth. Oh, I should also mention as her wet nurse. In woods with... Actually, no, that's... we'll keep that. Let's put it here. Young Dusk plays in woods with... There we go. Actually, no, let's put this earlier, because it's probably something she's done throughout her life, so... We know she's supposed to be young and innocent in this game as well, but... Young Dusk plays in woods with Elizabeth. There we go. I think it was her first sorcerer staff, right? Drops first sorcery staff. Dusk drops per sorcery staff. It becomes 3 new white trees. White tree, sorcery, staff. Becomes 3 new white trees. Grows into 3 new white trees. Okay, there we go. Is there anything else detail-wise we can mention? People are getting attacked and stuff. Oh yeah, Abyss spreads to Oolacile. Actually, no. This is about here. Abyss spreads to Oolacile and begins collapsing foundations. Its foundations. Collapsing its foundations. Abyss. The Abyss becomes owner of an Abyss. The Abyss scare the growing Abyss scares holy beasts, and they flee, wreaking havoc. Dust turns undead, escapes to Oolacile Mausoleum with Elizabeth. Yeah, spreads and begins collapsing its foundations. And escapes to Oolacile Mausoleum with Elizabeth. Dusk finds out. Hiding Dusk is captured by Seaths, by Crystal Golem, and drifts to future. Dusk returns to past. Freed Dusk, we should say. Freed Dusk returns to past and leaves summon sign for future savior. Dusk is kidnapped, is abducted, is captured by Madness and dragged to his grave in the abyss. One second, chat. I want to check on the dog, see what she's chewing on. Okay, just her bone. We're good. We're good. We're good. All right, so Manus begins searching across time and space for his pendant. In their madness, Oolacile, sorcery, break Manus's pendant. Nobility escape with pendant. Yeah, again, I think this is the point. Like a lot of people, like I don't like the reductive documents because especially because it's just so off base when it gets to stuff like it's so great to have the dark, but then I see the consequences of the dark, and it's like this is because man has been so estranged from their own nature by the gods that we see these terrible backlash and stuff. But it still acknowledges that, yeah, these are terrible, awful things, right? Like this is there's no denying that the dark can do terrible, awful things, just like the light has done, just like life has done, just like death has done, right? Like these are not powers that have like inherent morality, right? Dark Souls, I wouldn't say it's a pantheistic world, right? But there's certainly some element to it, the idea that the entire world has been infested with fire, right? And so in effect, if you were to consider if we were to get to like really base elements, you consider fundamental rock, fog, and fire to be sort of the gods, the real gods of this world, right? And they're very pantheistic gods in that sense, and that there is no like sort of moral arbitration brought to it. It's just a matter of the fire goes through its course. It starts out with light, and then eventually the light fades, and then only the dark's going to remain. It's still an aspect of fire. In effect, fire is still present, quote unquote, in a world, even in its absence, right? Through its disparity as dark, right? So it's one of those. It's kind of one of those things where, again, Koth is not trying to get to any sort of. Koth is not trying to sort of argue to some like higher power or cause for his moral arguments for the Age of Dark. He's simply pointing out that this is just the natural course of the world, and to the extent that we should be obeying by any system of morality, it should be by the systems of morality imposed by the world itself, right? And in the setting of Dark Souls, as we can see, it is a more convincing argument. The more you kind of see how this, like any attempt to resist it, is only making things worse and worse. It's like at some point you have to kind of accept that whatever your misgivings about the Age of Dark and what might come ahead, it is obviously the only path ahead at the end of the game, and probably the best path ahead to get it over with now rather than later. And as we can see with the ideas of like the Age of the Deep Seas and stuff, how we could end up with something even worse off by delaying it, right? So Dusk is captured by Manus and dragged to his grave in the Abyss. Manus for his pendant. So yeah, into the Abyss. Artorias encounters Elizabeth and sets out to rescue Dusk. With Elizabeth, the Abyss corrupts the nobility. Let's just say the citizens, Ulasil citizens, corrupts remaining Ulasil citizens. Now we should Ulasil citizens and they wreak havoc. Yeah, drifts into the future. For future savior, must begin searching across time for his pendant. Dusk is captured and grabbed to his aid. Artorias encounters Elizabeth and sets out to rescue Dusk. With Sif. Artorias and Sif counter Elizabeth and set out to rescue Dusk. Artorias loses silver pendant to nobility. Let's say it begins corrupting. Pendant to nobility. So Artorias loses silver pendant. Loses silver pendant to the nobility. Unknowingly. Artorias challenges Manus and fails and becomes corrupted by the Abyss. Artorias sacrifices shield. Let's see. Artorias erects whole barrier to protect Sif with shield and leaves to get help. Erects barrier and leaves to get help. I do think the dark can be made dangerous in a unique way, and that it can be infused with emotion and almost become sentient like the pursuers. But I mean, this is true for all life. The dark has a tendency to spontaneously generate. But for example, in Dark Souls 2, we see the same thing with the souls of Gwyn, Nito, Izalith, and Seath. All of them, because of their exceptionally strong wills, end up essentially reanimating after death as souls and continue to haunt the lands, even as Lordran in the Great Shift ends up at Dragon Lake, right? And they cause obviously tons of problems in their own respects there. Izalith probably the least of them all, but I guess you can kind of argue Nito as well. So it's it's mostly just Gwyn and Seath, but still, the point is that, like, again, this isn't something unique to the dark in that aspect, right? It's just more what's the word? It's more conducive with the dark just because of its inherent nature. Like I said, that's a tendency to spontaneously generate. But again, the thing that makes the dark a problem compared to, say, others is its particularly greedy nature, right? It has this nature to consume, right? Because again, the idea is that, true to its nature, the world itself will be consumed by dark at the end, right? Like this is the inevitable fate of the universe, right? So there is sort of this idea that dark is this sort of all-consuming, all-having, like it's the winner take all, right? Like it is the one that's going to collect all the chips at the end of the game, right? Like it just the moment that the Pygmy Lord took the dark soul and spread it amongst the clan, the pygmies won the lottery effectively, right? This is why the dark is associated with luck, right? It's the way that the universe itself is constructed, that their fate is to end up to be this way, right? And that's greed, which becomes a moral quandary, right? Is the thing that is labeled as sin and is what's the word? Poo-pooed essentially by mainstream God society, right? And obviously meant to mirror the Christian moral ethic and stuff like that, right? But in the context of Dark Souls, of course, that ethic is being opposed on a world of which it is not fit for, right? Because there is no the gods are not the actual moral arbiters, as mentioned earlier. There is no moral arbitration by anything that you might consider a deity. And so there's no point into getting into discussions about the the inherent goodness or badness of greed, as it were. Greed simply is greed. It exists. It exists in as we see to some extent in all life, with emotion, but especially in the dark. And that the dark, it is and it is because of that greed, that that quote unquote greed, that the dark is destined to exist at the end of the world, right? Sort of like Nashandra, the curse of want is an apt way of putting it. Yeah, like Nashandra is a good example because it reflects Nashandra's isn't exactly greed. Hers thing is craving, right? I think they call it want, right? Like they call her like the apostle of want in the localization, right? But like again, it's this idea of craving where she like this almost gluttonous pursuit that she has to have and things like that. Now obviously with her, this is probably the example where you can cast the dark in the most negative light, right? Because Nashandra is just an embodiment of craving in and of itself, and obviously she is just a very evil character in just how in the terms of the narrative and all that stuff. But like again, this is sort of divorcing it from the idea that all of these traits or whatever, these are of course part of the dark, but they are ultimately in the hands of the individual soul, right? And again, souls, if they show the ability of which to what extent they embrace or resist their own nature. That is the nature of will, right? Individual will. We are not just soulless automatons that are fighting in a rigid destiny where everything is just sort of predetermined to that extent. Although you can argue there's definitely a lot of predeterminism in the Dark Souls setting with the way time travel and stuff is justified. But the point being that, you know, ultimately the question is just, how are you going to be the evil Dark Lord or something like that? Or are you going to be a noble and just king of man? That is ultimately what it comes down to. Except for Patches, who has no earthly desires. Ah, yes, Patches. As we know, Patches is above it all. He truly is a man with no earthly wants. Oh, man. God, I love Patches. Okay, so let's see. Artorias erects barrier to protect Sith with shield and leaves to get help. Artorias hunts corrupted citizens. Hunts corruption. Ulasil falls into Bedlam, and Artorias hunts corruption. Rampant corruption. Chester is dragged into the past. Is dragged to Ulasil from the future. From the future. The chosen undead is dragged to Ulasil from the future. Anything we want to put in between this? Crystal Seaths, Crystal Golems, Drift to Royal Wood from the past. I don't think we need to mention that they're killed by like the golems, the Ulasil golems or stuff. I don't know if I would call them kami, Nick, because again, kami is the term for god used for, of course, like the medials and stuff like that. But yeah, there is the idea that, again, these aren't like conscious or sentient forces, because kami do tend to have this idea that they have sentience and consciousness to them. But there is the idea that, yes, these are purely natural forces. I think it might be something, I don't know if animism even applies here, right? But the point is, like, basically, it's like the world of Dark Souls is framed around its natural forces, right? You know, rock, fog, fire, dark, the disparity of various disparities of fire, including light, dark, and death. You know, like it's one of these ideas where, like, you know, like the world of Dark Souls basically just exists within a system, right? And the system allows a certain degree of freedom, of course, and allows one to try to resist the free system or to go along with it. But the point is that the system is still the system, and there is no JRPG. The hero defeats God and will be able to basically completely rewrite all of essentially the reality of their situation, right? Like you see in so many stories where it's like, you know, how many times do you play a JRPG and the god's like, there's no point to resist, right? Like they act like they're the Abrahamic god, and well, they're obviously not, right? There's always, you know, they're always like the heroes are always able to actually beat them or whatever, right? And we kind of have that play out with something like how we defeat Gwyn and stuff like that. But the point is that in the larger sense, there is no, you know, killing, you know, there is no killing God and overturning the rules of the world, right? There we go. Uh-oh. Ah.